Okay, this video is going to show you how to make the locator block using Autodesk Inventor. And there's more than one way to do this, but this is going to show you kind of the basics on how to create the first sketch and then do the extrusion and then a second sketch and a second extrusion. As you'll see that there's a shape for the front view here that we're going to show, and then there's also a different shape that'll have to be a second extrusion here for this the top view. So we're going to go through and kind of walk through the steps on how to do this. So I'll come in here and I'll say let's start a new part file. And you're going to start your initial shape on just whatever surface you want, and in this case we've got our front surface here is great to go with our front view. So I'm going to say let's start a new sketch on that front surface, and then using your sketch tools you're just going to create your geometry. So remember, you start by making it approximately the right size and shape. Zoom out a little bit here. It doesn't have to be perfectly the right size and shape as long as it's about right, because then we have fewer surprises when we start to actually do the drawing itself and add our dimensions in. So again, this isn't exactly right, but it's close. After you get your geometry sketched in, the next thing you need to do is to constrain it. So you'll notice that I did not start on the origin point here, but I'm still going to use that to constrain. So I'll add in a vertical constraint between the corner there and the center point, and then a horizontal constraint between that corner there and the center point. So now those two lines are constrained, they can't be moved away. And then I can use those to put in the rest of my dimensions. So the overall length here is going to be 4 3/4. And then our overall height from the bottom to the top is 2 1/4. And then you can just start adding in the rest of the dimensions as necessary. 1 9/16, 2 1/2. This one here is 2 5/8. And then we have a 30-degree angle, so I'll pick both of those lines. So now we are fully constrained. If you look down here in the left-hand corner, fully constrained. That is our shape for the front view, so I'll say finish the sketch, and then we will do an extrude. Now because I'm thinking ahead in the future here, I want to have this maybe be equal on both sides. I'm going to use that mid-plane symmetric extrusion. And I'll say my overall depth here is 2 1/8, and say OK. So there we go. There's your first part of it. Remember, what it kind of looks like here. That's what it's going to end up looking like, and this is where we are right now. So the next thing we need to do is we need to come in and we need to cut the notches out and that slot in the top. Going back to the part itself, we can do all of that in one sketch. So I'll say let's start a new sketch. Pardon me, not a 3D sketch here. So let me undo that. We're going to start a new 2D sketch. I'm going to put it on that top plane. And then, of course, I like to have my view cube showing upright and regular to go. That point right there is the origin, is the center point. It created its own, X and Y axis based on those, but we don't really concern ourselves with those too much. So here we are creating a sketch, same thing. However, on a secondary sketch, you're going to start by projecting your geometry to the sketch plane, and sometimes it's easiest to show it like this. So for example, I need to have that surface and that surface, or excuse me, and those three edges there as geometry in my sketch. So I'll say project that edge right there, that edge right there, and that edge right there back to the sketch plane. So you see how it includes those in the sketch plane, which is what I wanted there. So now what I can do is I can come in, I can say, okay, I've got my notch that's going to be taken out of the front here. Same thing over here. I've got another one. I know that I want these two to be equal, so I'm going to put an equal constraint between those. And they need to be lined up. If I come in here and I pick this one, okay, they're lined up. We're all good there. Then I also need that slot over here in this side, so I'll just use the line command. And we've done this before in class where we just kind of make this approximately, again, the right size and shape using our line tool to go ahead and put those in. Okay, so I need a vertical constraint, or excuse me, a horizontal constraint between those. Okay, and now notice that I can come in and I can just add my dimensions on here. So I'll say, all right, from the end line to the center of that circle, it's 5/8. And then from the center there to the center there, it's 1 inch. The diameter of this slot is 5/8. And then we've got our two corners over here, so this is 1 1/8. And this distance here is 9/16. Again, noticing in the bottom right-hand corner we're fully constrained, so we're good to go. We'll say finish this sketch. We have 3 profiles now that we can extrude. I've got the center, the slot profile, and those two, and we can do all 3 of those extrusions in one activity. So I say extrude. I'll pick those 3 profiles, but I don't want them as an add. You know, I don't want them as a, if we look at our Boolean operations, we have Boolean operations. We have join, subtract, and intersection. The one we want is the subtract here, and I will say through all is my distance, or I could just, you know, pick the bottom here. So right here we have through all, so I'll do that, say OK, and you are now done with that same part.